Hello friends, today I take up a new topic and this is the part of the current affairs and the name of this topic is China-Pakistan axis and its fallout on India. So friends, I will deliver lecture on this topic. My lesson plan includes why is it in the news, the growing ties between Pakistan and China, the changed policy of China, comparative military strength of China and India, and what should India do, and finally conclusion. Friends, as you know that the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan just concluded his 4-day visit to China on Sunday, and so I have taken this topic. This is most important topic because you know that you can change your friends but you can't change your neighbor. A good neighbor, a peaceful neighbor is a must for peaceful life. It happens with the life of an individual and it also happens with the life of a nation. And as you know that two nations, I mean Pakistan and China, are on our borders. And so the axis of Pakistan and China and their growing relation economically and militarily is a threat to India. Why I am telling this? Because both countries bore enmities with India. Pakistan waged 4 wars against India since its inception in 1947, and similarly China waged war against India in 1962, where India had to taste defeat, but in 1967 at Nathula Pass, India gave crushing defeat to Chinese army, killing more than 400 Chinese forces. And similarly in 1986, in Arunachal Pradesh, in Samdurong Chu area, India repulsed the Chinese incursions. In 2019, at Doklam, at the tri-juncture of Bhutan, India and China, it is also called the neck of India, the Chinese incursion were repulsed. Similarly, the last year, in 2020, in Galwan Valley, Chinese army killed 20 Indian soldiers, and so in retaliation, according to a news report, 42 Chinese soldiers were killed in skirmishes. So what you see, that both countries bore grudge against India, its rising power. They are very much jealous of the rising power of India, jealous about the non-alignment policy of India since its inception. Although India always wanted to have a cordial relationship with Pakistan and China, India signed Indus River Treaty, whereby the 3 rivers which emanates from the territory of Jammu and Kashmir, like Jhelum, Chenab and Indus, the water of these rivers were given to Pakistan, and the water of Ravi, Satluj and Byas were to be utilized by Indian territories of Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir. So, India always showed cordial relationship with Pakistan, with China, but the hostility of China and Pakistan always have been a roadblock to the normalization of relationship between India and these two neighboring countries. So now I have taken this topic. Why? Why is it in the news? Number one, I have already told you that Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan concluded a 4-day visit to China, and they signed joint statement on the cooperation in different matters, like number one, that China retreated, that Kashmir issue was dispute left from history. Secondly, should be peacefully resolved based on UN Charter, Security Council resolution and bilateral agreements. China said that it opposes unilateral action that complicates the situation. Friends, as you know that when India abrogated Article 370, thereby reducing the special status of Jammu Kashmir province and its reduction from statehood to union territory, it was not liked by China and Pakistan. So, by this joint statement, China said that there should not be any unilateral action as far as the Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. Again, Chinese reaffirmed its support for Pakistan in safeguarding its sovereignty, its independence, and in promoting economic development and prosperity. Pakistan expressed its commitment to one China policy, number one. Number two, it gave support to China on Taiwan, on South China Sea, on Hong Kong, on Xinjiang and Tibet. What does this mean? Friends, as you know that how much genocide is going on in Xinjiang province by Chinese authorities, and the province of Xinjiang is the home of large-scale Muslims, Uyghur Muslims. But it is astonishing to see that neither Pakistan nor the Arab world ever criticize the policy of China vis-a-vis torture and persecution of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province. Similarly, the Buddhist culture in Tibet is being finished off by the slow process of Chinese policy. But what is the stand of Pakistan? It supports Chinese occupation of Tibet. It supports Chinese right over Taiwan. So, what does this mean? That Pakistan wholeheartedly supports the actions or the foreign policy adopted by China in these spheres. China recognized Pakistan. China recognized that Pakistan has sacrificed too much on the front of fighting against terrorists. Both countries reiterated their commitment to fight terrorism. And friends, as you know, that the Pakistani fight against terrorism is not a great sacrifice. We have been witnessing the covert war waged by Pakistan since 30 years. For the last 30 years, by way of exporting terrorists into Indian territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Both sides expressed determination to safeguard CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, from all threats and its swift completion. Again, underline the importance of Gwadar Port. Gwadar Port is in the Arabian Sea near the Strait of Hormuz and a vital role in regional connectivity. Both sides also discussed the extension of CPEC into Afghanistan. Peaceful, stable and united Afghanistan is important for the prosperity of the region. Underscored to expedite humanitarian aid to Afghanistan. And friends, as you know that Government of India has also taken initiative. It invited 5 Central Asian countries at Delhi to chalk out the strategy by which the humanitarian aid can be provided to Afghanistan. The 4 crore Afghanistani are very much in trouble. Similarly, now this one is the map of Pakistan-China Economic Corridor. Friends, as you know that this corridor starts from Kashgar city, from Xinjiang province, then it goes through Gilgit and Baltistan. It is the disputed territory between India and Pakistan, and in 1947, Pakistan usurped this territory which is still under it. Now, again, it goes through Dera Ismail Khan and then through Balochistan. It goes to Gwadar Port. Gwadar Port is in the Arabian Sea and just nearer to the Strait of Hormuz. It is being constructed at the cost of 62 billion American dollar. This is the huge investment, and by this CPEC, now it will be easier for Chinese to enter into Arabian Sea within 2 to 3 days instead of 3 to 4 months. Nowadays, when they come from South China Sea and then enter into Indian Ocean, and thereafter their ships go to Arabian Sea. So this will be a great boost to the Chinese connectivity into Arabian Sea. Now again, both joint statement renewed calls for unfreeze Afghan cash assets frozen internationally at the US Bank and other Western European banks. Both sides agreed to arrange for Pakistan students to return to China for further studies. Because of the COVID-19, most of the students came back to Pakistan and so their studies were very much disturbed. Now Pakistan wants that these students must go to China for further studies. So both sides concluded a number of agreements covering bilateral cooperation in the areas of economic and technical industry, investment, infrastructure, space, vaccination, digitalization, disaster management, sports, and vocational education. So, what you see now that instead of the US, China has become the most important strategic partner of Pakistan. Friends, you might be knowing that after independence, Pakistan switched over to the Western Alliance. It signed treaty. It became a member of CENTO, Central Treaty Organization, headed by the US, CETO, Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, Baghdad Pact, and then in 1954, Pakistan signed treaty with the US. So, by one after another treaty, Pakistan went into the Western camp. Similarly, in the pre-independence era, when the Muslim League went into the side of the British imperialists, they never went into jail. They supported the British in Second World War. So what you see that the same policy continued even after independence, and Pakistan became the camp follower of the Western alliances during the period of Cold War. But India adopted the policy of non-alignment. Non-alignment means it will not be aligned with either camp headed by Soviet Union or the US. It will decide international issues on the merit. So, the foreign policy of Pakistan and India went into different ways. So, now what we see that later on after 1962, when China attacked India and India had to face debacle. So now thereafter Pakistan started normalizing or making friendship with China. It ceded the disputed territory of Trans-Karakoram area measuring more than 5,000 square kilometers in 1964, and through this area now CPEC is being constructed. So now what you see that with the passage of time, China became the most important partner of Pakistan. Instead of US, now China is the most important security partner, economic partner of Pakistan. So now Pakistan's export to China has increased by 34% and is reached to 2.33 billion American dollar. It is another thing that the balance of trade is completely in favor of China, with the result that more than 18 billion American dollar of Chinese goods export is to Pakistan, and Pakistan's share of export to China is not more than 1.8 billion American dollar. So you see that it is a totally adverse balance of trade for Pakistan. Now, why Pakistan is tilting towards China for the last 60 years? This is because, number one, it has always been the practice of Pakistan to have parity with India insofar as military strength is concerned. And so, by way of military alliance with China, Pakistan wants to have a strategic parity with India. Number one. Number two, as you know that now the Pakistan's economy is just 1/10 of India's economy. Indian economy is rising by leaps and bounds, and Pakistan economy is not catching up. Now, Pakistan has become a debt-trapped country. It has no money to repay its loan. So now Pakistan is very much scared of India, and that's why it is too much tilting on China for its military support, for its economic support. So, by way of aligning with China, Pakistan wants to reverse the balance of power in favor of Pakistan-China axis in South and Southeast Asia. Now, diplomatic support of China in the resolution of Kashmir disputes, and that's why China wants Pakistan to act as Israel, and that's why it has always supported Pakistan, albeit indirectly, by saying that there should not be any unilateral decision as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. Second, that it has never criticized proxy war waged by Pakistan for the last 30 years. Now, what is the change policy of China for the last 10 years? Friends, as you know that China has become now the second superpower. Its economy has risen to $17 trillion, 17 to 18 trillion dollar, and the GDP of the US nominal term is $21 trillion. So what you see that economically China has become second superpower. In PPP term, China has become the largest economy of the world, even surpassing the US. Now, if we compare with the Chinese economy, what you see that in 1980, the volume of economy of both China and India was the same. But when Deng Xiaoping opened its economy to the world, and it resulted into the higher growth rate of 10% annually for 30 years up to 2010 AD. And this made the Chinese economy 5 times greater than that of the economy of India. Now, the Indian economy in the nominal GDP term is around or more than $3 trillion, and that's why Government of India want to increase it by 5 trillion American dollar by 2025-26. But in terms of PPP, purchasing power parity, what you see that Indian economy is 2.5 times less than that of China. I will also discuss about the comparison of military strength between China and India later on. So what you see, because of its military and economic power, China now changed its policy. Earlier, it used to say that 21st century will be the Asian century. Now it is telling or insisting that it will be Chinese century. What does this mean? It wants to establish a Chinese political system with to change completely the world order that was established in 1945, and an economic order was established by the leadership of World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and now this economic order is being changed by China, or it is being insisted upon China. Now its policy is to encircle India from all sides. As you know that China has a strategic alliance with Myanmar. It has allied with Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and the Hambantota port was leased out to China because of the failure to repay loan by Sri Lanka to China. And now the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and by investing 62 billion American dollar. So China wants to establish a string of pearl in the Indian Ocean to encircle India. China is scared of the rising power of India as a regional power in Asia, or the great power status in the Committee of World. So what you see, whenever Chinese authority, if you peep into the Chinese history, you will find that whenever the Chinese authority became stronger, they had the tendency of expanding from its border. So now when China has become the second most important power in the world, its policy is now to threaten its neighbors. For example, China shrunk to Vietnamese trawlers in South China Sea, again curtailed the fishing rights of Indonesia in South China Sea. China laid claim on Japan's Senkaku and Raika Islands, rejected the International Court of Justice ruling as regards exclusive economic zone around Spratly Island being awarded to Philippines, scoffs at International Convention on Freedom of Navigation and Movement in the Seas. So what you see, that China always threatens its neighbors and always interferes in their territorial integrity. Although you might be knowing that China and India were the signatories of Panchsheel Five Principles, whereby both countries decided to run their foreign policy on the basis of territorial integrity of each other's country, non-aggression, non-interference in their internal matters, for mutual benefit and peaceful coexistence. These were the 5 principles which governed the foreign policy of China. But in contrast to the spelled out foreign policy, China has always peeped into the territory of its neighbors. It always threatened its neighbors, and there have been regular skirmishes on its borders. So now we see, now again we switch over to another point, that is comparative military strength of China and India. Friends, as you know that China is spending 4 times more money than India. So what you see, the total aircraft for India is 2,182 and for China it is 3,285. Fighter aircraft 564 for India, 1,200 for China. Helicopters 805 for India, 912 for China. Attack helicopter for India, this is 37. For China it is 281. Tank strength, it is 4,614 for India, and for China it is 5,250. Armored vehicles 12,000 for India and 35,000 for China. Self-propelled artillery 100 for India, 4,120 for China, and towed artillery for India it is 3,311 and for China it is 1,734. Similarly, mobile rocket projectors, fleet strength, aircraft carriers, submarines, and you know that India has only 17 and China has 79. So this is the large gap. And destroyer for India it is 10, for China it is 41. Frigates for India it is 13, for China it is 49. Patrol vessels for India it is 128 and for China it is 152. Airports, India has 346, China has 507. Now, by this comparison, what we have gathered? Friends, as you know, that when we compare the military strength of both China and India, certainly the strength of China is bigger than India. But one thing we must understand, and that is Indian army is more accustomed to fight in the inclement weather. So by this data we must not gather the conclusion that Chinese army or Chinese military is all powerful. No. Indians army is very much matched to China, provided that the management of its force and the proper use of its logistics should be done. So now we come to the third point. Of course, one thing that I want to add, that the naval strength of India must be raised, because I have already given you data that there is a huge gap of naval strength between China and India, and so there is need to increase the naval strength in the Indian Ocean, in the Pacific region. Now, what should India do? Number one, China understands the language of tit for tat. Friends, as you know that in Nathula Pass skirmish in 1967, the Indian army very much repulsed the Chinese interference, killing thereby more than 400 Chinese soldiers. Similarly, in 1986, in the area of Arunachal Pradesh, earlier it was called Nepha, at the place near Samdurung Chu, Indian army very much repulsed Chinese intrusion. And similarly, in 2019 at Doklam, Chinese had to eat humble pie, and in 2020 Chinese had to pay the price for killing innocent 20 Indian soldiers, and in retaliation, Indian soldiers killed 42 Chinese soldiers, according to a recent newspaper report. Although Chinese never declared how many soldiers were killed in the scuffle with Indian army. So now we see China understands the language of tit for tat. We must see eye to eye with Chinese to increase the Indian defense budget to match the Chinese. As I have already told you that now the defense budget for Chinese army is 4 times more than that of India. So what is the need of our is to strengthen our military to match with Chinese army or Chinese Air Force or Chinese naval power. Third, India should always retain its strategic autonomy. Its policy of autonomy must be maintained. It not work at the behest of the US or the USSR or the Western European power. It must keep its autonomy as it had kept its autonomy during the period of Cold War by policy of non-alignment. India must impress upon the US and other nations to attempt strategic conversions. India must highlight on the world stage about the destroying the ancient Tibet culture and genocide in Xinjiang province of China. The Quad and recently announced Australia, United Kingdom and the US. This is the alliance AUKUS. It has informed Australia, United Kingdom and United with credible military deterrent like NATO. And friends, as you know that according to the clause 5 of NATO, if any member of NATO is attacked by third party, then what will happen? All the members of NATO will attack the aggressor or the third party. So here is a collective security mechanism that has been provided to NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And so what is our suggestion? That the quadrilateral alliance and its members are Japan, Australia, India and the US. These 4 powers are the part of Quad, and it is suggested that other powers like Malaysia or Indonesia or Philippines or Vietnam should also become the part of Quad in order to have balance of power in South China Sea and Indo-Pacific region. WTO must identify and censure China's trade practices. WTO is a World Trade Organization. Why I am telling this? Because friends, as you know, that China has become the manufacturing hub. Its manufactured goods are exported far and wide in the world. And so, it is incumbent upon WTO to curtail the malpractices that are being adopted by China to export its manufactured goods. Now G7 nations must endeavor to cut their trade with China substantially. You know that the lifeline of China is the export of manufactured goods. So, in order to curb the economic power of China, G7 countries, the group of developed countries, must endeavor to cut their trade with China substantially. And again, India must diplomatically become proactive to counter debt trap diplomacy against poor nations. And friends, as you know, I have already told you that how the Hambantota port was leased out by Sri Lanka to China because of the failure of the repayment of debt by Sri Lanka to China. And so it has given 99-year lease to China, the port of Hambantota. And this is also a security threat for India. India must give utmost importance to hybrid warfare, cyber warfare and artificial intelligence to match China. And friends, as you know that China is very much focusing upon these modes of warfare. And what India should do? India should also try its level best to develop hybrid warfare, cyber warfare and artificial intelligence to match China. India needs to augment its naval preparedness in the Indo-Pacific region, strengthen its Andaman Nicobar command. India needs to assert itself vis-a-vis China to combat hegemonistic design of China. India has successfully done this in the past, in Nathula Pass in 1967, Samdurong Chu in 1986, Doklam in 2019, Galwan Valley in 2020. India should strengthen its ties with UAE and Israel, supported by the US, so that its presence should be felt in the Arabian Sea. Conclusion. What conclusion we draw from this lecture, friends? So, I have given certain conclusion. Number one, engage China diplomatically as long as it is possible. Better ties with Russia to contract Pakistan-China axis on land. And as you know that nowadays China and Russia has become very much closer. So it is incumbent upon Indian policy makers to make more engagement with Russia. Now, strengthening of Quad to make it NATO type alliance, and I have already told you, and then win away neighbors from Chinese influence like Nepal or Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, or countries of Southeast Asia like Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, Laos, Thailand. All these are the part of the Southeast Asia and South Asia. So friends, what is the need of the hour? To decrease the Chinese influence in these areas and decrease the influence in the Indian Ocean region, IOR. And again, other important things are increasing the economic strength of our country. Friends, as I have already told you that in 1980, the volume of economy for India and China was same. But in the last 40 years, Chinese economy became 5 times larger than that of India. Why? Because India could not grow at the pace as China grew for 30 years at the rate of 10%. So it is urgent need that Indian economy must grow at 8 to 9% or 10% for the next 10 to 15 years to catch up with China. And the time is now completely in favor of India. Why I am telling this? Because the demographic dividend is very much favorable for India since 2018, and it will continue up to 2060, when 69% of its population are the part of the labor force. And friends, as you know that the demographic dividend will come down in the case of China from 2025-26, and the way it grew will not be possible. Why? Because the dependency load will be very much higher, and the ratio of young people will be very much low in the labor force. So it is now time to reap demographic dividends for India, and for this it is necessary to give employment to our youth, to make them skillful so that they can start their own business, or government can give them employment. Of course, government can't give employment to most of the people. People have to start their own business, and that is the slogan of the government of India, to make India self-reliant. I mean the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, to strengthen military bandobast on the Himalayan borders, and government of India is doing excellent job on this front for the last 10 years, and roads are being constructed on the Himalayan regions. So transport facility should be increased, logistics should be strengthened, the military power of India is second to none, because Indian Army has more expertise than Chinese Army insofar as the war or the battle is in the hilly terrain or the area with inclement weather. So there is no cause of worry. So friends, now I am winding up my lecture. I hope that you might have relished my lecture. If you have any point, please write down in the comment box. If you want to read more, then please just type AJIS Academy Indore on YouTube and subscribe, and you will find numerous videos covering different topics meant for UPSC and different competitive examinations. Stay fit. Thank you very much.